What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the round six AFLW Game Day squad show. How are we in round six already? This is getting ridiculous. After this, we're halfway through the season. So we're at hump day, basically. As always, I'm joined here by Bales. Welcome, Bales. I'm going to ask
G'day, mate.
you one of the dumbest questions, but how was your week last week in terms of Game Day squad AFLW?
I went pretty well. Was able to take out starter and classic for the week, so pretty happy with that. So first in both, so pretty happy with that. Got some nice pack rewards. Got a little bit of monies on the side, which was nice. So yeah,
Very
mate, not
nice.
too bad.
Always nice.
How about yourself?
Nice one. I had a all right round. I basically came eighth in every comp, which was kind of funny, but also a little bit annoying because he's sitting outside of the money there. Well, I mean, I'm still a fair way out of the money there, but just a bit of a random thing, finishing eighth in everything. Not too far off though, so it's still reassuring. It's just very tight at the top of those leaderboards.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, whereabouts are you for the season? Obviously, the rankings and stuff now.
that's a great question. I'll grab it up now. I think you might have overtaken me, and that's probably why you're asking this question, isn't it, Bales?
Hey, no, I just let the listeners know just if they wanted to know where we're ranked. That's
Yeah, yeah.
nothing,
So
no other reason.
in classic, in starter, I'm currently sitting in third overall. Um, no one of note above me really there. No, no, you're in second, so that's great. Congratulations,
It's
whatever.
yeah, I like congratulate whatever. It's actually looking here like the top four. It's like the top four got a bit of a gap, I guess to fifth. And it's like I'm 2 points behind. Here we go, and then you're not too far behind. But that was flipped in 1 week. I feel like it's every 2 weeks we flip, like second and
Yeah,
third. I don't know if any of us have been first in any of the
no,
comps this year. It's been second and third, and we've pretty much flipped every. It's like 2 weeks. I'll be there, then you'll be there. I'll be there. It's like
yeah,
it's interesting. It's exactly the same in classic as well, right? It's that what
yeah.
second and third, and it's
You're
pretty
only
close.
14 points off the top there in classic, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And
Well, there's a certain Jesse Wardlaw that I think was a big reason why, because I think that was my pod from last week that I ended up playing in the squad,
yeah,
and she came through and I think with like a 120 odd. So that was a massive score on the forward line. So pretty happy with that.
yeah. And in champion, I'm coming fifth overall, which is pretty decent effort considering the amount of people in there with legend cards and whatnot. And I actually consider myself coming fourth in champion because I just ignore Fez on the top of the leaderboard there nowadays. So I think
Yeah.
it's Wedge Tails in first, Skippers in second, Dance Dynamo's in third, and then me in fourth.
Yeah. I may
And
have you
just
in
doing a
starter and
Fez.
class. I may have you in starter and class at the moment, but you've got me comfortably in champion, mate. So
Oh
that's
well.
pretty happy with that.
Beautiful. Now we'll jump ahead to, I guess, our takes of the round. I've got a few here. One thing I haven't written down, which is kind of messing with me a little bit, is I'm starting to wrap my head around like the fantasy scoring this season, but the actual results in AFLW this year, they just seem like they're all over the place. Like I
Well,
don't know, some people probably aren't even looking at the actual scores because they're only here for the points, but what's going on?
I do tipping, right? So I 629th overall in the official tipping for the season, so not too bad out of nearly 14,000 people. But like last week was just really tough, and I think it was good for the comp, right? It means that there's upsets happening left, right, and centre. It means the competition's getting closer. I know North Melbourne are like is ahead of everyone else, but I think from
Mhm.
second to 18th, it's not as big as what we've seen in the past. Like, last few years, we've seen like I remember Crows have beaten Giants like 100 to like 7. Like it's
Yeah.
like massive margins. Whereas this year, it seems like teams are. It's you don't see many blowouts as much, which is good, right? And that's what we want to see. And like last week, like you look at Sydney losing to Collingwood.
Yep.
Not many people would tip that. Port beating Melbourne.
Mhm.
Giants, who lost to Gold Coast, who we thought were the worst team, beat Bulldogs, who'd done okay for the start of the year.
Mhm.
And then, well,
Saints pumping Essendon, who
yeah,
have been
which
looking all
Essendon,
right. Yeah.
I know the injuries probably played a part, but yeah, as you say, it's been a good start, I guess, for the comp. Put it that way.
Yeah. Beautiful. And then in terms of a game day sense, my review of the round is Steph Wales. looks good. Now complicates things a little bit more.
She's
I was
put her name into like the sort of the tier below Mim Strom. You've got like
yeah.
Morfitt and probably like Lucy Wales, and then I reckon you've got Matilda Schultz, Steph Wales are probably the next couple.
My query, well, I guess playing Saints, I think Saints notoriously probably don't have the best or a difficult ruck
Yeah, it's a good
matchup for a
matchup. Yeah,
ruck.
it's a good matchup.
But that's the second game back from injury. First one was a bit of in, like a slow introduction as well. So like if she's slotting into that position just after coming back, I can see her sitting in that Mimstrom tier, probably not too far away.
Well, this is the
Um,
test this week, right? She plays Mim Strom this week, so that's
yeah,
the
exactly right.
test this week.
Yeah. Next up, probably not super controversial anymore, but Hoare is now a must start, I think, in the
Oh yeah.
midfield. Just looking 120% fit, looking like doing everything around the ground, goals, tackles, disposals, just doing everything. Lock her in. If you have a low tier card of hers, still lock her in.
Well, the thing
Next, oh, sorry.
just quickly with her, the thing that's so good about Kate Hoare, right, is you look at the best mids in the comp, like you look at like Ash Riddell is like playing mid to high 80% game time. Marinoff the same, Gardner the same, Garner when she isn't come back from injury the same. But Kate Hoare, like she played 96% TOG on the
Mhm.
weekend. She has played a minimum of 91% in every game. And there was a game round 3 which she played 100%. So she comes off once, maybe
Mhm.
twice a game, and that's it, which is
Mhm.
amazing if she's playing midfield.
Yeah.
There's points. They've got a great run for the next 3 weeks. Melbourne still do. So I think it's a lock and load. I think she's got to be in your side.
Yeah. She's one of those players where you rest her up forward and then she dominates the forward line and kicks a bag while
And
she's resting. And then she slots back into the midfield and just keeps getting touches. It's like the
she's
perfect fantasy setup.
and she still had like 90% CBAs as well. So she's still playing
Yeah.
heaps of mids. So yep, get her in.
Yep. Next one, Parry sneaking into like consideration. Just purely with consistency, nothing crazy, just those 100-point scores just ticking away. That's what you want in a forward. You don't want those like boom or bust in this area where they can go 20 points. So she's, well, spoiler alert, she's coming in for me, but
Ooh.
she's someone who I think might go unnoticed for a couple more weeks. What do you think?
No, great. Yep, good option for sure with the matchups. I don't think she's not a lineup lock yet, but I think with some of these other options, maybe have a tough matchup or here or there, and Caitlin Gould going down unfortunately on 0 and not scoring, which isn't only bad for fantasy coach, it's not good for the Crows either.
Mhm.
I think she's for up to 8 weeks. That's another option that we can't use for the next couple of months or for pretty much the rest of the year. So Parry's certainly in the mix.
Yeah. Now, Bonnie Too Good, happy with her performance coming back. You you any concerns or just she's like just spent the whole time working hard and now she's just going to keep doing that pre-suspension form.
Yeah, I think she's going to continue on some good form. The only thing is her run after this week gets
Mhm.
incredibly hard, and it's really
Okay.
hard for the rest of the year. It's one of the worst runs probably for key forward. I think Bonnie Too Good's a good enough player that she can still be an option regardless, but I think she's got Freo this week, then she goes North Melbourne, and then she's got some other tough matchups after. So big concern with the North matchup, but this week she's definitely an option, and she even spent some time around the ball, which is good.
Yeah. And just shout out to Jonty in the chat who won a gold parry in a Discord quiz earlier in the week. So keep an eye on there for
Nicely
plenty
done.
of free cards. But yeah, and last one, just Garner, solid. Looks like I didn't play her last week because I had concerns, but it was a game where I was lucky where it didn't burn me because I guess the reduced time on ground meant that the score wasn't insane, but it gave me confidence that I could just pick her next week and not be too, worried. Did
Yeah.
you play her last week?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I did. Played the platinum in classics. I put as much salary as I could. I just was too nervous about not playing her when she's back. And if she wasn't on the bench for a bit, which no surprise, right? Come back from injury very, very quickly. But I think she's automatically put herself back into top couple mids, put as much salary as you can on in whatever competition you're in and make sure she's in your squads.
Yeah, very nice. Now we'll just jump straight into the games for the round. So as always, we're going to spin the wheel. Pending time, because we have been running a bit late the last few weeks, what we might do is we'll get to the end and we'll spin the wheel and post it in the Discord if we run out of time, just because, we want to talk footy. We don't want to just spend half the show. I mean, you guys probably do actually want us just to spin the wheel for half the show, but that's not what I'm doing. So, starting off, Collingwood versus Hawthorn. What did you make of the Centra versus Fish game last week? It was interesting. I thought the kind of, those are the two names that everyone's been comparing all season in terms of the new draft picks.
Yeah, well,
Do you think it was a winner?
They're I think Centre on the day one. I think she kicked a couple of goals. She got Rising Star, looked great. That was her best game for the year, which was good to see. She clearly is building into the year and looking good now. So hopefully she can keep going and put up some good scores moving forward. But Fish obviously has been great. I think both are amazing dynasty assets, right? You pack one or both and you store them in your club. They're going to be good. Like even Zippy Fish could be like, she's already fantasy relevant as it is, but she could be like very, very relevant next year as a defender in game day squad, right? She could be someone we're looking at week in, week out compared to this year where she's just a mid. Same with Centra. Centra could be a forward depending on how it sits. I think she's playing a bit more mid, so probably a little bit more unlikely, but something to definitely watch. But Centra on the day got the chocolates along with Collingwood.
If you had to, have one, you get to pack one of these in a card for legacy. Who would you be who would you be wanting at this moment in time?
Oh, geez, you can't do that to me. Probably Zippy Fish, just with what we've seen. She's got that role in defence, but Ash Centra's been a gun junior in the midfield, and if she gets like more comfortable at the level, she could be the one that scores more. But I think both are going to be absolute guns. Like you can see that the way like they kick the footy, like they look like they've been playing. Well, they have been playing footy from like Auskick level, right? That's what we're seeing with all these youngsters coming in now. They've been playing Auskick right from as long as they can remember. And we're just going to continue to see players like this come in and dominate.
Yeah. And I kind of almost see Centra as like a Harley Reid type where we know they're going to be incredible, but it might take a few seasons to get to that elite level. But
yeah, exactly.
Now, apart from, Centra's probably not going to be considered, but Barnett, probably the main Collingwood player that we're considering week to week. Do you like the matchup for her?
I wouldn't say I love the matchup against Lucy Wells, but it's a solid matchup, right? She like Barnett keeps getting it done, keeps getting these 80s, 90s, solid scorer. She's got a pretty good floor. She's played teams like North Melbourne and even Sydney last week with Ali Morfitt, and she's still putting up solid scores. So even though Lucy Wells isn't the easiest matchup, I'm still playing her just because of the role. She's got a great role and the floor's there. And it's good to have a couple of those forwards that give you what you want. And then you can maybe have a couple of those players that maybe can put up a ceiling score or two on that given week.
Yeah. And speaking of, I guess, ruck options, Wales, we've hinted earlier that there's probably a few more to consider now in those two spots that we get each week. Not Morfitt. Strom's probably one of them, but does Wales get a shout against Collingwood this week, do you think? Is that a nice matchup for you?
She's one of 4 rucks, I think, that have great matchups this week. It's a really tough week to pick rucks. I've actually got at the bottom of the 4 at the moment. I've got 3 ahead of her for this week. So, I think we've got some really, like Mim Strom at 1, but there's a couple that I've got ahead this week with the matchup. So I'm sure we'll chat about those when we get to those games. But there's a lot of good rucks, and Lucy Wells is one that you can definitely consider. But obviously the one that's a lock is TLR. I think that they're just locked in every week, as we pretty much say.
Exactly right. They're just, they're good. Sometimes you don't see them that much in the game, but then they just rock up and, get a bunch of points, and all of a sudden they're on 100. So just lock them in. Any strength you have. Strength. That's a new term I'm going to start calling the cards. All right. Jumping through to the next one. Port versus Geelong. And this is one of the ruck matchups, which I'm really liking. In fact, so much so that I am starting Schultz this week alongside Strom. just because the matchup against Geelong ruck is very tasty, and we've seen what she can do in tasty matchups against, undersized, underperforming rucks. So I can see another big 160 type score from her here. What are, any comments, thoughts?
Oh, you've nailed it on the head. Like the matchup's great. Schultz is great. It ticks all the boxes, right? Funny enough, I don't currently have her in my squad. I've got her at number 3 in terms of my sort of top 5 rankings this week. I've got another ruck just ahead, but there's every chance I switch that and put Schultz on the bench. I think Strom's obviously locked, but there's one other ruck I've got just ahead. But great option. Like Ash Woodland, again, had another great score last week. Just a lot like Barnett, just has the role, just doesn't put up massive scores, but puts up good scores every week. So
yeah,
I think she's locked. But can you play both the Geelong forwards? That's probably the question I've got for you in this one. You got Ash Maloney's. I think she's almost a lock every week, particularly in a matchup like this where I think she'll go quite well. But can you play her and Jackie Parry in the same team?
I mean, you definitely can. It's just, who do you take out is the problem. Because for me, I think I've got 4 forward locks now. Malloy, Ham,
Goldsworthy,
and Woodland. And then Maloney, Parry's now coming into consideration.
Barnett,
Zanker in a matchup, maybe less so now. But yeah, I think there's room for them if they have a good matchup. So this week is definitely a week where it's very tempting and, a good option, I would say. Are you tempted?
I'm tempted. Yep, definitely. Again, I can't quite fit Jackie Parry in. I've got a couple other options there. But Ash Maloney is in the team for me. And then Georgie Prasparkas, great matchup, midfielders for Port against Port. Sorry, I currently don't have her in the side. The only thing that's annoying me a little bit about Georgie Prasparkas at the moment, that's really capping her from really joining that elite level, is the marks. The marks just unfortunately aren't there at the moment. She's getting the touches, getting the tackle. She's kicking a goal or two every now and again. It's just that the marks aren't there. So, the matchup was great, but can she take full advantage of the matchup? What do you think?
I think she can. She's on the press for me as well. But again, there's so many good options. Previously, it's kind of been like, oh yeah, everyone's got the same side. You kind of just pick the players. Whoever has the best versions of those players wins the round. But now you're actually making tough decisions and tough calls where, I'm dropping. Last week, I dropped Garner because I didn't think she was good enough, which is a terrifying thing to say, but there's options. So Prasparkas isn't in for me this week, but that matchup is very nice. So hopefully people can take advantage. That's about it though for that game. I think I can't really think of anyone else. What about Head down back? Done a dash?
I think she's not done a dash. I just think we've got better options at the moment. I think pretty much just that. I think she's just unfortunately just down the list a little bit.
Yeah. Now with the next one, we've got North Melbourne versus Carlton. Jazz Garner, I think, is back to, probably always was a lock, but for me is definitely a lock now. What have you made of Kearney? She's been pretty consistent, hey?
Yeah, I think Kearney's she's in there every week. I think she's pretty close to a lineup lock. There will be games where she is managed in terms of game time, just to make sure that their star gets through the season unscathed and ready for finals. But I think she's going to score well regardless. So I think Kearney, Garner, Riddell, I think you just lock those 3 into your side. And that's the case. I think that the interesting one from this game is the mid matchup against North Melbourne is not great, right? But Dana Finn
Yeah.
keeps getting it done, and I wouldn't be playing in this matchup, right? This is a bad matchup. North Melbourne, there's just no point, right? Because okay, she might score well, but there's a lot more chance that she doesn't against North Melbourne. But I've been saying you can't start her, but then she keeps going 120, 120, 120. It's just
Yeah.
like she keeps putting up these good scores. It's like, well, when's it going to be the point where we go, okay, well, this is real? Like she keeps getting done. She's playing on a wing, yeah, but she's getting back into defense, getting intercept marks. She's getting up the ground. She's taking every mark when the ball comes to her, which is great, right? So is she someone that is going to be on your radar maybe after this matchup? Because you're probably aligned with the fact that this matchup's probably not where we're starting at, just
Yeah,
with the other mids.
100%. Well, yeah, if we look at the 3-game average for her, she's sitting at 6th overall. So that's like slotting into the side basically. And she's sitting above Gardner, who's had a massive score. Bowers. Oh, sorry, this is everyone. She's sitting 6th.
Yeah, that's what I
So
mean, right?
yeah. Yeah, definitely needs to be considered. Similar to how like Ness Garwin's kind of been a bit of a off the radar thing, and then finally just that persistent nagging in the background with big scores. It's like, okay, this is real. I need to not miss this for another week. So yeah, this week probably wouldn't recommend playing her, like you said, but definitely who's she got coming up? Probably some decent matchups. Gosh.
So
Oh,
they've got
Freo next week.
So yeah, they got Freo next week. Then they go into Geelong, which isn't too bad as well. Then they've got Sydney. So it's not a bad run. St Kilda, Giants, and then they finish off with West Coast. So it's like they don't really have too many more difficult matchups the rest of the year. So I think she's definitely someone after this week that you got to be concerned. I probably still won't start her just because I'm like, she's a winger, not mid. You're looking at like Garner, Riddell, Marinoff, all those players that play full-time inside mid. They've just got the access to the high floor. Whereas I feel like they're as good as Finn's been. Like this could be the game where she puts up a 50 or a 60 and she just doesn't get involved. So she's going to have her pop scores right, but I think there are going to be games where she's going to struggle a little bit just on a wing, right? That's just the nature of the way footy goes.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, especially against North, where it's just pushing forward very quickly. Those wings aren't going to get much action.
The one point I would say just before we move on to the other game is you can see that mid matchup is the minus 10.8 points, or whatever. So it's a red 10.6 points. Sorry, it's a red matchup against Carlton. So you're thinking, well, Garner and Riddell. But I think if you look at the matchups that Carlton have had this year, there's not any of those star mids that have really played them right. So they played Collingwood in round one. You don't really have a dominating like mid besides Benici, and she had she had 128 in officials. So I don't know exactly what she had in game day squad, but she had a really good game there. Then against Hawthorn in round two, you don't really see like Bates or West or anyone like that dominating anyone at the moment. So I'm like, there's no one really there that you'd think would put up a massive score. Brisbane in round three. Ali Anderson has struggled besides last week. I'm sure we'll chat about her when we get to the Brisbane game, but she struggled a bit in that game, but she was struggling really for most of the year. Dogs in round four. Again, the Dogs don't really have a midfielder at the moment that's dominating. I know Georgia Stathis has been in there. Well, she had a pretty solid day. She had about a 90-odd. And then last week in round five, they played Gold Coast. And Gold Coast obviously aren't really scoring much. Like Neve McLaughlin had a good game. Single, Row Bottom, Whitford all did solid, but I think that the bad mid matchup, I think if anyone's looking at that, I'd probably say it's a bit of a outlier in a way. I think it is still an okay matchup. It's probably not as good as what it was, but with Abby Mackay not there and the matchups they've had, I think you can still play Garner Riddell with salary, with confidence.
Yeah, no, agreed. It's interesting data to look at, but given the way that AFLW rostering works, it can be misleading. So, never like we talked about the fixture lock players, and those North guys are just fixture lock. So beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, this is the ruck matchup, which I think is going to be an interesting one. Fremantle Essendon. The -11 for Essendon rucks. So that would be, in theory, a -11 score to Strom's average. Is that a little bit of a, niggle in the back of your head that maybe it's not like we talked about there's so many good options. Is Strom not a lock this week?
No, she's a lot. I'm
Yeah,
not
okay.
looking. I'm not looking too much into
Just trying to tempt you.
yeah. Not with Mim Strom. You're not going to tempt me about anything. It's a lot. Like you look at her last couple of games against Essendon. So in the final last year, when they won by 10 points, 3-0, Mim Strom had 26 disposals, 6 tackles, 55 hitouts, and a goal, and scored pretty much bang on almost 200 points in GameDay squad. Right, that was there. And then the other game last year, where Freo won by 43 points, Mimstrom had 17 touches, 9 tackles, 48 hitouts, and about a 150, 160, right? So the scoring she's had recently against Essendon's been great. The game that wasn't the final was against Steph Wales. The game in the final was against Matilda Dyke. So the big score was probably due to Steph Wales not playing, but I think that last year showed that I think this is still going to be a good matchup. And I was worried 3 quarters in last week. Memstrom was on about 55, 60 game day squad points. And I was thinking, this is a little bit concerning that she's not really dominating this match against West Coast. And then she decided to have like a 60-point last quarter and get to a ton. So she still is the clear best ruck. And I think I'm not too worried about that tough matchup.
Yeah. And what did you make of Nanscowan last week? I think a bit of a lower score.
Yeah, little bit unders, but still good good option. I don't currently have her in my team this week, but she's someone still I think that's a great option. We've talked about she's not going to get tagged, she's not going to face any attention from opposition, so I think she's still going to be a really good option. I think she's still the best scoring mid at Essendon moving forward, so I think she's still someone. But what did you make
as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What did you make of Kiara Bowers? Because I didn't have her in any of my squads last week, but watching that game, I got a bit of the feeling of this is Kiara Bowers, like she's back. But she still only had about 21 touches. Like she had a lot of tackles, which is great, and had a great score. But she's not getting the ball as much as what she obviously did before the pregnancy and that. So I just think that maybe is this just the Bowers that we're going to get? We're going to get the odd big score, a lot of solid sort of 110, 115s, and then the odd sort of 80 if she doesn't get those tackles. Because that's sort of what I am feeling at the moment.
Yeah, I think a lot of her scoring has, like, it depends on the matchup with the, how the breakdown in the middle is going to go. Like, is she going to have those, 16, 20 tackle games like we know she can do? And then if she does that, that's just, an 80-point foundation for whatever she gets on top. That's a bonus. But if she gets like I think, was it 2 weeks ago, she had like a 4 tackle game or something ridiculous with Bowers.
She scored like a 90, 85, something like that.
Yeah, so without those tackles, it's nothing. So I think I'm starting to probably just trying to fade her out the back of my mind and just be like, yep, I'll miss out on some big scores, but I can't risk those, low games, especially with those midfield options. We've harped on about all the midfield options, but it's crazy.
Yeah, I think she's still an option, right? But yeah, I think that she's just behind those. I've still got those accumulators like the Riddells, Garners, Marinos, Contis. Those just get pretty much 30 touches a week, and then they can also get those tackles on top and then boost that score up. So that's probably why I've got that.
Yeah, nice. And I think I might have tempted someone to my side of thinking in the comments, Finn McGuinness.
Interesting. I couldn't do it personally. I can't fade Strom.
I might. I just like Steph Wales. I am tempted in the matchup against Strom, which might be even more crazy. But
by all means, do it in Starting Classic because that's where we're up against. Champion, I'd just play Strom and just do that. But yeah, no, feel free if you want. But
just looking at the ruck scores against Fremantle, we have had Oh, yeah, no, sorry, I've changed my mind. The highest score is 108, and that was Hickey. So, yep, no, I'm out.
Damn
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, Finn, don't do that.
Yeah, and
I
then
was
Bonnie
wrong.
Too Good's the other one that if you want a player, I think you can definitely look at it. The forward matchup's a good matchup against Freo, so I think you can definitely look there.
Nice one. All right. Moving ahead to the next game of the round, Melbourne and West Coast. Or we won't talk about it too much
Yeah,
because
just we've just established here. I think she's probably not a lineup lock, but she's certainly that sort of in between number 4 and 8 mid that's very much in the mix every week. But this is a matchup that I like a lot against West Coast. I think she can put up another really good score. What about Ella Roberts on the other side for the mids? I think this is a pretty decent matchup because you think Melbourne are going to be on the front foot a bit, but West Coast have still shown to be in games a lot. I think Ella Roberts can put up a good score here.
Yeah, I've now got this dumb superstition thing in my head. I kind of talked about it last week, how she goes a bad score, then a good score, bad score, good score, bad score, and then good score, which happened last week. She managed a 126, which is a pretty good score, but that means she's due for a bad score. So,
Yeah, yeah. So
I
maybe
yeah, I mean, she's a good player, good matchup. Psychologically, it would ruin me this weekend if I played her. So I'm out.
the one
Uh,
player I'm really keen on here from West Coast is Charlie Thomas this week. I think it's a really good matchup for I think Melbourne are going to get a lot of shots on goal. Like looking back last year, Charlie Thomas had I think a career high score. End up scoring 133 GameDay squad points in the game against Melbourne last year, which for a defender is massive. Like that's you're thinking two Lucas Rod sort of type areas for like a big score. So she's had a good record against him. And then I think even the game before she was again fairly solid as well. So she's been pretty good against Melbourne in the last couple of matchups. So I think it's a good matchup, and particularly because Swanson's also not playing this week because she's got a week suspension.
yeah. So that's why I've got her up there, just in case. Because previously it's been a bit of a, toss up between the two. Like Thomas is clearly ahead now in terms of form and actually being on the field. But we've got a question about the Melbourne
Good
game
question.
day squad defense. Chaplin or Heath?
I think it's Heath for me, definitely. I think it's a good question though in terms of like I think both are really good. I think you can play both. I just
Yeah.
think Heath though's playing midfield. Like she was the third midfielder again last week. Since Purcell's been out, that's where she's been playing. So pretty much from round one, obviously we saw Purcell was there. Kate Hall wasn't in there as much. Kate Hall has just taken Purcell's spot, and Heath has just kept that same role that she's had pretty much all bar one game. But she's got I think she has got a big ceiling score in her at some point. She seems to have two big quarters in games and then two average quarters. But again, West Coast, this could be a game where she actually puts four quarters together and ends up putting up a big score. But Maeve Chaplin, I think you can definitely play her this week. I just wonder against West Coast. West Coast isn't a good matchup for defenders. It's nearly -8 points, and that's been the way for a few years now for West Coast in both the men's and the women's. So I'm a bit nervous with Chaplin this week, but in saying that, she takes all the kick-ins pretty much, and she's the general bat there. So I think that she's someone that you can play. You in agreement with that as well? You're Heath?
Yeah, I'm Heath, but I have both currently. So,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
but that's because I've faded Thomas, which I'm gonna unfade shortly. I just faded her last week, which wasn't the worst decision, but
Yeah.
I think I I just need to maybe diversify a little bit more. So I think Thomas, you're right, is a very tasty matchup. Similar kind of question. We've seen obviously the rise of Hoare the last few weeks, kind of getting back to those. What last week was 140, then 165. During that time, Hanks has slowly been dropping her scores.
Yeah.
Is that a red flag? Game over, no more Hanks consideration, or is she still equally selectable, just not consistent.
I love the way you said that. You made it sound like all like the complete doom and gloom. Like, nah, game over. That's it. It's a red flag for sure. I think we've seen the correlation right of Hoare going in and Hanks's output has dropped. I'm not going to completely fade it because I think there are matchups, but until I see probably a good score, I'm probably am fading for the time being. I think Kate Hoare is the clear number one scorer now. There will be games where Kate Hoare gets attention from the opposition and Tyler Hanks has got to step up and put up a good score. But for the moment, I think that you want those number one mids from each team. And there are some teams that have got two that can put up good scores. Where I feel like Melbourne, first couple of matches when they dominated, really had a couple of good scorers in, like Purcell and Hanks in round one. Then you had, I think it was just Hanks in round two, but then like round three, it's pretty much been Kate Hoare and Hanks, and then rounds 4 and like 5, it was just Hoare. So, yeah, I sort of worry that Melbourne aren't scoring as many fantasy points to consistently have those two going big. So I think for the moment, Kate Hoare's there, but Hanks is still someone to sort of note down. But for the time being, I'm probably fading.
Yeah, I think with Melbourne, a lot of those fantasy points are being spread out to the, game day squad forwards and defenders as well as the midfield, where a lot of other sides have their core midfield players who are getting the 130 points a week, and then the forwards and backs are getting those 70-80 scores. We're seeing like the consistent hundreds from the Melbourne forwards and defenders and sometimes forwards. I think it's a fade for me.
Yeah.
Well, not a fade. I haven't played her, just not starter. All right. Going into the next one, Sydney and GWS. A game now where I'm not sure who's going to win it. Like from a non-fantasy.
I think Sydney win it. I think that was a bad performance last week from Sydney. Giants overperformed in a way because Dogs weren't great. I think Sydney get this done. And on the screen, this is the ruck I'm really keen on this week. Ali Morfitt up against Eilish Showdown and Grace Kosh if she's named again. This is just a great matchup. Ali Morfitt dominated Geelong a couple of weeks ago when they played. This is a similar matchup in terms of I think Ali Morfitt's going to dominate the hit out. She's going to get a lot of clearances. Ali Morfitt actually reminds me, Mark, I want to get your thoughts on this. She actually reminds me a bit of Tim English in terms of she actually pops up around the ground for these little +6, +7s in game day squad, right? She just gets these marks around the ground, but these little short lead-up ones, not down the line, like big pack marks. It's quite incredible the way she does it in a way. I know that game time isn't as good as those other rucks. She's more in the mid to high 70s, low 80s compared to like your Stroms, Schultz, all in the 90s. But this, for me, is a matchup I want a piece of. So I'm putting her in this week.
Yeah, I think that would be my third ruck behind Schultz just because of the, explosiveness there that could happen. Gardner, I'm so excited to be on the Gardner team finally. It's a very nice team to be on. Can't believe I haven't been here the whole time.
This is a matchup I'm actually slightly worried about, to be honest, out of all of them, just because Beck Beeson has done some roles with players in terms of stoppage tags. And I just worry that she did it on Benici. Was it Benici? No, not Benici. No, Benici went to Gardner last week a little bit, but didn't really matter. But Beeson went to, I remember, Marinoff a couple of weeks ago and kept her to a lower score. So it's just more worry a little bit with Gardner this week. I'm still playing her, I think, but it's just a slight flag that I'm worried about.
Yep. And then we've got another question in the chat here about this one. Malloy or Ham, if you had to pick one of them? I mean, for me personally, they're both, locks, probably regardless of fixture.
Well, if I had to answer this question, I would say Pequeno los dos. Why not both? You have to have both. Yeah. I think you have to have both. I think, Grant, that the question would be Malloy Ham in terms of who are the other, 5 forwards you've got, because I'll be fading one of those other 5.
Yeah. All right. Well, how about we rephrase it? You've got an extra 100K in the bank. You've got 100K to load up on one of these to up their multiplier for the week. Which one would you be putting the money on?
I think it's Malloy still.
Yeah.
I think. just because of the fact she's got the highest. I know that Ham had a 130, like a 140, 150 score in that round 2 against Gold Coast. I just think if Malloy's not touching it forward, she goes into the midfield and she just gets amongst it. So I think I've still got it, but I want both. But I've got, in terms of salary, I think I've got I don't know if I've got a platinum Malloy and then a gold Ham in my classic team, but I have had a gold Malloy, silver Ham, and vice versa. So I've had more salary on Malloy more often than not.
Yeah, I can see this being a game where Malloy kicks 6 again. Was it 6 or 8 or however many she kicked that?
Yeah. It was 7 against Gold Coast. Yeah, this could be
one of the two.
Very, very similar, I think. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so for me, I would be loading up on Malloy probably over, Goldsworthy or just anyone in my forward line. One sneaky one I've got there is Garnett, who has been pretty consistent the last few weeks, popping up and around the ground as well, which I like. Any temptation there, or I'm just putting a lot of bait in here to try and get you below me on the leaderboard?
No, Garnett's been good, right? But again, I think Sydney, that was a little bit of a blip last week. I think they'll win this game. I think there are a lot of good forwards, and I'm probably just not looking there at the moment, even though she's been good. I don't trust I don't trust GWS. Simple as that. Like, Goldsworthy's good because she's such a good player. But outside of Goldsworthy, I don't really trust a whole lot other than probably Cambridge McCormick. It's probably the only other one, which I think she's a solid option. But besides that, they just keep throwing people around. There's players playing forward that should be in defence. So I feel like their 2 key forwards at GWS should be their 2 main defenders in Evans and Huntington. I think they should both be in defence and switch it around.
Yeah.
But interesting. I'm not the coach, so not going to change anything, right? But that's just what worries me, is that players, I think, are playing out of position than what they should be.
Yeah, no, agreed. All right, jumping through to the next one. Bulldogs Brisbane. Now, Anderson, how nice was that to see? It was just good to see. One of the consistent stars of the competition throughout the years, like previous Brownlow equivalent winner. I just, I don't know if it's here to stay. I highly doubt it, but it was just refreshing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know if you noticed this. This is actually quite funny that I noticed, is that Anderson and Garner had the exact same game. They had 132 game day scored points. They both kicked a goal. They both had 12 kicks, 13 handballs, 4 marks, 9 tackles, and 1 free 4. I don't know if I've seen that in terms of 2 high scorers having the exact same stats.
Two dynasty, heroes of the competition as well.
It's like I had to look a couple of times and going like, is there a glitch on the Game Day Squad website? And I'm like, nope, it's just that's what happened. So they're both very good. I think I think Anderson goes hand in hand with Georgia Stathis. I think this is really interesting for both to see if both are, in one hand, Anderson is she back to being a consistent option? And is Georgia Stathis now a fade? This is a big matchup for me, because I think you'd imagine that Georgia Stathis goes to Ali Anderson this week. Like, she's been doing tagging jobs. Giants didn't really have anyone last week to really tag, so she didn't play midfield. Blackburn went in there. I still think Ellie Blackburn should be playing mid regardless, right? But does Georgia Stathis go in there to tag Anderson? I say yes. So I say I'm not quite on Anderson just yet, and I'm still backing in Georgia Stathis for a week.
Yeah.
But is that where you sort of sit? Are you nervous about either or excited about Anderson with a better score?
I'm excited about Anderson, but not enough to free up a midfield slot for her.
She's got really good matchups after this. She goes, obviously, Dogs this week, but then she goes back-to-back Richmond into Gold Coast. So I think they're 2 matchups where we probably will be looking at her as an option if she can put up a solid score this week, even if she gets tagged.
Yeah. No. Now, one player I think I can't remember if they were on your pod list last week, but Edmonds.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
a couple of weeks ago. This looks like a good matchup for the Rucks in terms of just the numbers. Obviously, Ruck stats probably more depend on who you've played against as opposed to how well you match up. But could you be tempted with this one? It's a game, like, she's a player that doesn't need touches to get big points. Who's she going to match up against? Was it Hickey?
Be Hickey. No, not for me. Just because again, I think that there's the 4 really good options this week. So you're not going to tempt me into this one. I think that Alice Edmonds is still showing some good scores, but last week wasn't a great score in a really good matchup, and we saw Hardingham come in and just chop out a little bit. So that is a little bit of a flag just moving forward. If Hardingham keeps her spot, obviously highly touted rookie, does that eat a little bit into Edmonds? Because we've seen that a little bit with Lucy Wales, right? With Ellie Simmons being in the team, it's eaten a little bit into Lucy Wales' ceiling. We want these rucks that are purely solo. Like you look at Strom, Schultz, Morfitt, they're pretty much solo. I know that they've all got their own chop outs in a way, but they're playing like mostly high game time and pretty much all the CBAs.
Yeah. What I find crazy for the Bulldogs is Edmonds is their highest game day squad averaging player.
Which again, it should be Blackburn. I don't know why she's being shunted to a forward line. She's been one of the best inside mids that we've seen in the comp for pretty much since its inception, right? She won the original sort of players that played in the Melbourne Dogs games all the way back when before AFLW was even a thing. And she's been their captain. Now she's not the captain anymore. And she's being put in a forward line. She went to the mids in the last call last week, which I was thinking, well, finally, about time they've finally put their best midfielder in. I'm hoping that that's a sign of things to come and she can end up going and averaging quite well. But they're just, throwing a few things around at the Dogs at the moment.
Yeah. No.
And then Bree Conan, Jade Ellinger.
Well, yeah.
Any good matchup for obviously here against the Dogs?
Yeah, good matchup, but a few concerning kind of scores the last few weeks. Well, last week for Conan only going 64. Before that, sitting consistently 80-ish. But
the thing that concerns with Conan this week is that Nat Grider's out with concussion and Ellie Hampson, I think, is out for a while as well. I know Ellie Hampson been playing a bit more up the ground, right? So it just raises concerns. What's Conan's role? I think it'll be mainly defense just because of the fact Grider's out. And that concerns me because she's had a good score at playing in defense when she's had a little bit of mid-time. Whereas Dog's good matchup for defenders, though, right? So I think she can still get to a good score, but I just she's a player that could put up a 40 or a 50 and you miss out on some points. Is that you thinking the same?
Yeah, I've dropped her. I can't remember if I faded her last week, which would have been a good call, but I faded her out. Maybe, I think, for one of those Melbourne defenders, whichever one I didn't have last week. So, next game, Saints versus Richmond. Now, Saints have been so hot and cold this season. It's crazy. As a Saints fan, it's kind of on par for the course with St Kilda being a Saints fan. But I assume you want to talk about Wardlaw.
Lock and load again. Yep. She's in the squad again. Great matchup once again against Richmond. I imagine Gabby Seymour goes to her, but there's a bit of a height difference between the two. So I think Wardlaw will go well again. And Wardlaw's actually got a really good run now for the next few weeks. She's had those tougher games out the way, and I think she's going to put up some good scores. I think Serene Watson has been great the last fortnight, and I think it's clearly shown that I think 45 odd score she had in round 3 was just an outlier, because outside of that, she's been pretty much 70 plus every week and been really consistent. Still takes every kick in when she's on the ground. I think she's a very good option and safe option to play every week there. And on the other side, I think Mon Conti just keeps getting it done again. So I think she's gone over 120, I think, in 4 of her 5 games, if I'm not mistaken. She's just been, I'm just actually going to fact check that just to make sure I am not talking out of my behind. No, she's gone. No, she's gone 130. Sorry, in 4 of her 5 games. Sorry, I just got it wrong.
Yeah.
And
And
the other
then the
one
other
was a
game was a
123.
120. Yeah. So it's
So she's been great. So I think lock and load Conti again. I think.
yeah, for some reason she's always the one that seems to be on the cusp for my midfield, but then she's also just been the most reliable player in my midfield. So
Well,
it's very undeserved.
you look at the averages. Like you got Riddell nearly 150.8, Marinoff 145.4, Gardner 137.2, and then you got Garner 134.5, and then you got Conti 133.2. They're the 5 players. So the 5 players that are averaging over 130, and the next best is Jean Ann scoring at 128, Hanks at 127, who we said's dropped off, and then it's Perich 122 and below. So she's shown, I think she's probably got to be a lineup lock, but I think we just think that because she's so good that and she's clearly the Richmond's best player, that we think there's going to be a tag at some point. But teams just do struggle to stop her, just of how good she is with her movement. She's so quick, she gets into space, and she's tackling. Like she's averaging, she's had what? How many? She's had 43 tackles this year, which is behind Marinoff, Nanscorn, Bowers, and Benici, which we look at those players, they dominate tackles every week. So I think she's in there for sure.
Conti's not previously Conti's not been a tackling relying midfielder, and now she's tackling, and that's great.
I think that the surprising thing for Conti this year, that probably the thing that could be some more growth, is that she's only had 6 marks for the season. And you're looking at like players above her that have had more tackles. Like Benici's had 12, Bowers 14, Nanscorn 12, Marinoff 15. Like they're players that you wouldn't probably necessarily go and, yep, they're going to mark it every week. Whereas Conti, you think, gets into space. But yeah, maybe there's a few extra marks that she might get, or maybe just because she gets tagged every week that they're like, well, she's just going to get only 1 or 2 marks a week, but she's going to tackle and get her touches.
Yeah, no, 100%. And time on ground for her, I know the start of the season was incredible. I haven't seen the last couple of games, but I imagine it's probably just as good. So,
actually, I'll pull it up here because I know it was like 100%, I think, in like round 2, if I'm not mistaken. So her game time last few weeks, it's gone, 100%, 92, 88, 84, 82. So she's gone down every game, which is interesting. So like Neve McLaughlin's scores have got better every week. Her game time's gone down every week. So again, I think she still plays a heap. She's probably been stuck on the bench, maybe one rotation a bit too long.
Yeah. No, 100%. All right, so this, and I've got a comment there from Grant. Wardlaw matchup against Richmond looks good. Expecting another 100+ score. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, so about to chat about the last game of the round, I think it is. So if you haven't already, make sure you jump in the comments in order to enter the prize wheel. Just need to have entered in a comment at any point about anything, preferably constructive, but just get in there. And then it does look like we're running over time. So what I'll do is I will record the wheel spin and get it up on the GameDay squad Discord.
I was gonna say, if you want, like the last game, I actually have a lot of the players in this next game as my pods. So if you want, we can join that if you wanted to do the spin the wheel thing on here as well tonight. But just because Marinoff's a lock for the next game, probably not many people looking at from Gold Coast besides Neve McLaughlin, who I think's a lock as well.
Yeah,
and I've got a couple of pods here who I wanted to chat in the pod section. So if was there anyone you wanted to touch on from this game?
Just Rowbottom, I think, was the one to talk about what you thought of her, coming back.
She didn't look too bad last week, but just I think that the game this year is she hasn't adapted quite yet to it. Like she isn't getting those marks around the ground that she was getting last year. The tackle numbers are slightly down as well. I don't think she had over 6 in a game, which is incredible because normally she gets a lot. The touches are still there. She still had 29 touches. It's just if she can add the everything else, that she can maybe put up some better scores. So someone to watch still, but not great. But yeah, I do have a couple of pods from this game.
Yeah, I've got a couple too. I don't actually have a slide because I didn't have time to get mine all up, but they're in the brain bank, so we'll run through them. But do you want to run through yours first, or do you want me to go in terms of pods?
You go first, just because I know you normally go first, and then I go after. If you'd like to do that, or if you want me to go first, I'm happy. But
no, I can go first. I'm curious to see if we've got any double ups again. I think I've got one from this last game, and it might be a similar card because I think we've talked about them a little bit before.
Yeah.
But my first pod, unsure if it's a pod necessarily. I would like to hear your take on whether they're a pod, but I think Schultz um, against Geelong, a lot of people are going to be locking in that kind of Strom Wales, maybe Strom Morford. I think Schultz kind of drops off a lot of people's radars, and there is a huge ceiling in this game for them.
Mm.
Do you think they're a pod, or am I kind of overstretching a bit there?
So I reckon a little bit overstretching, but I'll count it
Okay.
because a lot of people go Strom, and it's like who the second ruck is probably a pod in itself, right? Because people go different directions. So we'll give it to you.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, a loose pod. Next, I've got Bogue for North Melbourne against Carlton.
She keeps getting it done. Like just keeps
Yeah,
kicking goals.
kicking goals, decent, consistent scores. I think she's had a couple of lower floor scores, but I
At
think
the start of
this,
the year, like just like even last week, I was watching that game thinking, okay, yep, she's going okay, but she hasn't done much in the first half. Then the third quarter, she just goes and has 6 kicks, 1 mark, 2 tackles, 2 goals, and what's that? Just trying to do it in my head. 53 GameDay scored points in a quarter.
mhm.
Puts up a solid score. So, yep, you can definitely look there.
Yep. Beautiful. Next up, who did I have? One in this game who I'm curious whether it's also one of your pods. They're on the screen, and Hatchard.
Oh, yeah. That was probably my biggest pot of the week, I reckon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, obviously taking out one of those midfield slots, but I'll just bring up her scores of the last few weeks. I think 2 weeks ago she had a stinker, but where are we?
Yeah, so what? So was it like so last week? Anne Hatchard obviously against Hawthorn had obviously a 158 in GameDay squad. It's a
Yeah,
very good score. Round 4, she was
58
against
it was.
Brisbane. Yeah,
Yeah.
58. So not great. I think probably a bit more with the matchup. And then round 3 against the Giants, she had a 126. So
Yeah.
this is a Gold Coast, right? It's a great matchup.
Yeah, a lot of probably free space in there to do whatever she wants.
And
And
her marking last week around the ground was very, very good. Like she's taking marks, contested marks, and that's what it brought a tear to my eye because when I first started playing AFLW fantasy on other formats and even getting into GameDay squad, it was always Marinoff and Hatchard for me. I'd lock in being a Crows fan, and it was great. And probably the last 18 months, probably been a bit more just Marinoff and not as much Hatchard. Whereas now it's, I think this week is a week that you can definitely play both.
yeah, agreed. Who's next on my list? Sorry. I had Garnet versus Sydney. I
Yep.
just liked watching what I've seen of the GWS games is that she always just pops up with she's got the helmet on. You can always just easy to keep track of. It's just a nice, I feel like we're kind of getting into the territory where we can almost rely on like a 80 score most weeks from her. I don't know. Is that a unreasonable thing to think, given that she's had a great past of being a great player, but then GWS are obviously pretty trash at the moment.
I don't think it's sort of out of the question, right? It's just that I just don't trust the Giants. That's my only concern. If this was at another team and her role was a bit more solidified, I'd be a bit more confident in that. It's just that I just worry because of at the Giants, it just role keeps changing. 1 week she'll play defense, 1 week she'll play forward. A little bit nervous, but in saying that, she has been consistent really almost regardless, right? So I think she can still put up some good scores.
Yeah. No, sweet. And then the last one is, again, I think they've been on a pod list for us several weeks in a row, which probably makes them not so much a pod, but Wardlaw.
Yeah.
I think just the matchup, the potential there, can definitely consider maybe not even that much of a risk.
Yep. I
So
definitely agree with
probably
that one.
not the poddiest pods I've ever had. I think I've had to kind of tone back my pods back, given what I have been putting out there the last couple of weeks. So hopefully. Oh yeah.
Well, I was going to say my list isn't too poddy either, right? So like you touched on Anne Hatchard and Jesse Wardler, who I also had in my top 5 pods for the week as well. Like Wardlaw, I still think's a pod in a way because you probably gets lost a bit behind Malloy, Goldsworthy, Ham, Woodland, Barnett. Like you got those 5, and there's other good options that people probably just forget about Wardlaw, right? Like Ash Maloney,
Yeah.
Caitlin Gould was there. Like there are options, but I think that Wardlaw's there, and Anne Hatchard, great matchup against Gold Coast. I think she'll dominate. The other 3 I've actually got. So I've actually got another one from this game. Chelsea Randall, I think is still a pod because people are looking at that score from a few weeks ago going, she scored like a 22. Like, I don't want to play that in my squad. But look at the forward matchup, plus 17.1 points against Gold Coast. Caitlin Gould's not there, meaning that Randall's going to play a lot more forward. I think she'd kick a bag of 4 in this game and get some points around the ground. So she's there. I had Jackie Parry on my list because I still think she'll be a pod. She's been playing well, but again, behind all those unknowns. So I've got her there. And I've got a Melbourne forward, not Eden Zanker. I've actually got Taylor Harris as a pod because she's actually been playing as the backup ruck at the moment behind Lauren Pearce. So she's getting some ruck time around the ground that gets a little bit of extra sort of bonus points in terms of that floor. And she's been hanging on to a couple of extra marks that she was dropping all of them in the first few weeks. Whereas you can hang on to those marks. That floor, I think, is a bit higher. I think she'll put up some good scores, and West Coast could be a good matchup for someone like Taylor Harris. So that's my top. They're my 5 pods for the week.
No, I think I like your pods better than mine, to be honest. They're good. All right. So now we'll run through our lineups. What I might do is, if it's all right with you, I'll get you to talk through yours first, just so I can set up the wheel.
Yep. No stress at all. So, yeah, so obviously, to Lucas Rod, they're locked in every week. So they're there along with Neve McLaughlin, who has been fantastic this year and, just keeps getting it done. And in that midfield, Emma Carney, just solid, consistent, along with Serene Watson, Charlie Thomas, and then Shelley Heath. So they're all just consistent defenders. So I've got them in. They got good matchups, pretty much all of them this week. And then Chelsea Randall was the one on the bench that I decided to put there with the really good matchup this week. Last time I had her on my bench, she put up a 22. So I'm hoping that I don't get that bad a score this week. Midfield probably speaks for itself. Riddell, Marinoff, Gardner, Garner, Conti, and Kate Hoare. They're pretty much, that's it. I thought about Georgie Prasparkas, but Gardner's the only one I would half consider, but I just think Gardner's could just put up a massive score and make you regret it. So I think I'll stick fat with her in the midfield. And I've got Strom and Morpher as my 2 rucks. And then forward line, again, a lot of the same. Malloy, Ham, Goldsworthy, Saint, Barnett, Maloney. And then I've got Jesse Wardlaw on my bench to round out the squad.
Very nice. All right. Running into mine. The squads were surprisingly, like, there's a few unique options between the 2 of us.
So just having a look. Two defenders, midfield the same, 1 ruck different, and then 2 forwards. Yes, it's different. It's fairly different. Probably the most differences we've had, I reckon, this year.
Yeah. Potentially 2 differences in the ruck coming up. If I, well, actually, no, it'd still be 1 difference because it would be, I'll bring out Strom, but I'm tempted to bring in Morfitt still. But yeah, I've brought in Wardlaw because I think, that the matchup is tasty. Shown, like, we often forget that before she moved to St Kilda, she was the leading goal scorer in the comp. So there's definite class there. It's just that I guess St Kilda has probably struggled a little bit in the past, but now they're starting to get a lot more goals on the board, which means that they're often coming through her. I think that we're going to start to see Wardlaw probably moving her way up in the list of kind of the locked forwards. I've gone Parry over Maloney, just in the forward line there.
Yeah, we've almost got our little sort of mini sort of shout out to Fantasy Bros, Bro Down Showdown. We've almost got it like Schultz and Parry versus Morpher and Maloney.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting this week.
Yeah, and I like, don't look too much into the rarities of my forward line. Like, I've got a gold Malloy over a silver Ham, but I just would stack both of them if I could. Chaplin is in at the moment, but it's between them and Georgia Stathis potentially coming out for Thomas,
Yep.
I think. So I think Thomas will play for me by, what is it, Saturday lockout again, I think. It's just who's coming out, I'm not sure.
Mm.
Or maybe even Heath. I think Heath is probably sitting ahead of Chaplin. So, yeah, tricky one. But that's me. So what we'll do now is we're going to jump ahead into the wheel spin. I think we do have. I mean, we've run over, so we may as well quickly smash it out. The thing is, it cleared the wheel, so I've just been frantically adding stuff in here, and I've run out of time, and I basically have only got down to platinums. So and my all stars. So it's a pretty tasty wheel right now with not a whole heap of you know, cards on there. So there's a high chance of getting a all-star Strom or a 9-player
Ooh.
unique.
Here we go.
So this could be. Oh, actually,
If we get the 9-player unique, do we actually get to open it on the stream for the person, and you get to send them the contents of what you got in the pack?
no, because I'll have to hook up a code to.
Okay. Yeah.
Buy it
Damn,
off.
I was getting excited that
yes,
it's getting excited we might be able to open packs because we know that we all love opening packs.
I know. I want to do that on the show, but I also don't because it's a slippery slope for me. Particularly, I opened up. I wasn't sure if I was going to play basketball this season, and then I ended up opening like $150 worth of prize money on packs just on basketball. It was a mess. Yeah. But anyway, I'm now invested in basketball. So let's just jump over to the wheel, hey? There's a bunch of options, a bunch of people in for a win here. So I'll just share my screen.
And Daniel also mentioned there as well, what about Eloise Jones? She was someone's actually probably my 6th pod from this week. Probably another Crows player. We galled out. Probably going to be a main target up there. So, no, she's someone that you can definitely consider as well.
Beautiful. So, let's get spinning. So, what have we got? 11 people entered this week. And it's a. I'll stop and show you the board because I was getting down to the silvers and the bronzes, which are probably.
There you go. Skip wins. So, what is Skip going to get? That's the question.
So, jump over. So, all I've got is 9-player common, 9-player rare, 9-player unique, platinum Riddell, plat Nance Gowan, diamond Hurley.
Could be a really good dynasty.
All-star Roberts. Oh, that Roberts is a platinum as well.
Yeah.
And then the 2 all-star cards.
So
I have panicked here, and I'm probably going to give up some of my better cards, but let's do it anyway. So, best of luck. Oh. That is the one I didn't want to go. So,
oh no!
Congratulations. You have just stolen my all-star Strom, which maybe that influences my decision to fade her this week. So it could be a blessing. So if it's gone well, Skip, thank you. If it hasn't, then congratulations on your new all-star card. Hit me up in the GameDay Squad Discord and I'll flick over a trade for you. But yeah, I'm going to take a moment to reflect on that.
I just knew when you did that. I'm like, what's the bet? It's going to be the Strom All-Star this week that when you put the smaller wheel up.
Yeah, but that's all right. It's I'm off her. She's out of my squads. I don't rate her this week, so get her out. No one needs her. You can hit me up if you want. If you don't want her, that's fine. I'm happy to hang on to it for you if you don't need it. But nah. Congratulations, Skip. So that about does us for the week, for the round. do you have any final pieces of advice here?
No, just same as always. Enjoy the weekend. Hope you guys have a good score. And if you guys haven't signed up to GameDay squad yet, obviously the men's basketball and NBL starts tomorrow night. So use the code BalesDT at sign up. And whether you want to use the packs with the sign up code, because you get free packs using the code, use it for the basketball. It starts tomorrow, new sport, or you got the football, like EPL, you got still AFL, NRL finals, still plenty of other sports if you want to use it for that. But no better time to sign up to GameDay Squad because it's free to play. So use the code BalesDT and head to GameDaySquad.com.au. You can find me at BalesDT on X, and you can find us AFL Fantasy Fans on X. Where can they find you on the socials, Mark? Any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, so they can find us over at thegamedaysociety.com, the GDS Society, no, the GD Society on X, and the Game Day Society on Instagram, where we're actually starting to get pretty active with, putting out a bunch of content there. But yeah, other than that, make sure you jump into the Game Day Squad Discord if you haven't, because there's plenty of stuff in there as well. Plenty of giveaways happening all the time if you're starting, wanting to build up your squad. But yeah, that's about it. So best of luck to everyone, especially Skip, who's going to need it now with an All-Star Strom this week in probably a down round for her. But yeah, thanks for watching.
Beautiful. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.